Hey, everybody, and welcome to Learning from Smart People. I am your host, Rob Oliver, and today I have not only a smart person, but a sweet person. His name is John Louizes, and he has the world's most famous taffy. It's from a place called Zeno's. He started with 3 employees in 2003 in a small shop. He is now selling nationwide. He is building on the legacy his family started in 1948. John, welcome to the podcast, my friend.
Thank you so much. I love that introduction. And I'm sure when my friends listen to this, they're going to be wondering, when does the smart guest come on the show? So very happy to be here and looking forward to speaking with you today, Rob.
Yeah, no problem. So let's just start right with this, okay? Can you talk to me about is this a family business, or at least you've been in the sweets business for a while? Let's talk about your backstory. How did you get to where you are today?
Sure. So I like to tell everyone that Zeno's is the other family-owned business that started in Daytona Beach in 1948, the other one being NASCAR.
Right.
And the jury is out as to which is still more successful. One day we'll figure it out, I'm sure. But I'm a third generation candy and ice cream maker. My great uncle Thomas opened the business in 1948, was a Greek immigrant, moved to Coney Island, learned how to make candy and all the other confections there. And then on one Christmas vacation to Daytona Beach, where it was 85 degrees and it was 10 below zero in New York, he stayed here and he never went back. My dad then came from Greece in 1953, my dad Zeno. He then took over the business in 1963, had it for 40 years, and then I took it over in 2003. And, even though I was officially the boss and everything else, my dad had an adjacent gift shop to the candy shop still. So he would still manage to come in and like yell and tell all my team members what to do. And I'd get upset at them for listening to him. I'm like, he's not your boss. I'm your boss. And they're like, well, we're not afraid of you, Johnny. We're afraid of him. So that's how I got into the business. I'm very lucky and fortunate to the fact that I love doing what I do. I'm a creative type, so making different candies and sweets and ice creams and confections allows my creativity really to explode. And since then, why the growth? I would say I've been asked this question before, and I would say the number one answer was fear, because I'm a creature of habit and I don't really like change that much. But in 2004, Daytona Beach got hit with 3 back-to-back-to-back hurricanes. And I was content to live and work out of that little store the rest of my life. I'm a man of little means and I don't need lots of fancy things. But then I realized, one day this might not be here. And what would I do? Because I'm not good at anything else. And it's the best location. We've been so blessed and lucky. That corner is the American dream. My dad said one day I'm going to own that corner. And that was like, it's really an awesome story. Lots of fun things to talk about him as well.
Sure.
But so when those hurricanes came, I was like, we started looking at different ways to make money as well, just so I can, keep providing for my family. I just got married to my wife, Christina, and we opened another couple stores, and then we started wholesaling and manufacturing. And then I realized the growth was the most fun part for me. And I think in any generational business where there's legacy or family owned, there has to be something for them to attain to. And my dad, Zeno, I would say 10 out of 10 times, and my mom, it's so funny. My mom is the brains and everything behind the scenes. Same with my wife, Christina. But my dad and I are more the face of the company. So
Sure.
everyone thinks Johnny or Zeno, of course. But I forget where I was going with that. But the point being that when we started doing the growing and all that other stuff, the growth is what excited me.
Sure.
And as a single store operator, my dad would beat me 10 times out of 10. But when it came to growth, I realized, could these other stores, we're working on stores number 8 or 9 right now. They're not definite yet, but we're up to 7,
Okay.
8 and 9. Hopefully at the end of the month, we'll be at 9 stores. So do I understand that if I was at that store every day, would it do maybe 10, 15% better every day if I was there sitting there? Yes.
Sure.
But in the grand scheme of things, the more we spread out, I can't be everywhere. So I've got to rely on my team. And my dad and mom had people that worked for them for 40 years, 40 plus years. I've had people along my side for 20 years, 10 years, 5 years. So we've been very lucky. We're up to almost 50 people now between all 8 shops and
Okay.
the factory. And I think, everyone enjoys coming to work. I
Sure.
don't know. So
Right.
either you last 2 weeks or 2 or more years. We know pretty much if you're going to fit in pretty well. And ultimately, at the end of the day, you could be a great employee, but I have to like you because I have to be there. There's
Right.
no, you're not going to ruin my day.
Right.
And for me not to like you, you really got to be an amazing human being.
So,
So it works out pretty well. And sure enough, we've had a good run. Lots of failures, lots of mistakes, stuff that I've learned along the way. We're working on a deal right now and we might have to walk away. And the
sure.
hardest part of any deal is the walking away until you actually go through with the deal and it's not a good deal. So we're there now and we'll know by the end of the day if this one deal is going through. But at the end of the day, I don't care. And there's no one worse to negotiate with one is someone who cares too much
Yeah.
and someone who doesn't care.
Right.
Those are the worst people negotiating. I'm not doing this anymore. I'm done. Like, if you can't do it, Godspeed and God bless. So
Sure. Okay.
that's it. Yep.
So you've given me a lot to unpack there. And one of the things I'll say is we just had a guest on recently named Stephen Short, and he was all about, creating a legacy with a family owned business and how you make sure that when you take that business and it goes from one generation to the next, that there is a transition. And it's super interesting because what he talked about is exactly what you said, that your dad had the skills in startup and your dad had the skills in a single point of, sale.
Yeah.
And then you've got a different skill set and a different vision that involves growth. And I'm not real good at math, but here's what I figured out. And that is 80% of 7 locations is better than 110%
Yeah.
of one location.
Correct.
Right. So tell me, when you first decided that, okay, we're going to start a second location, what was that process like for you?
So Daytona Beach, where we are on the boardwalk, right when I got out of college, is under threat of eminent domain. So basically what that means to anyone who doesn't know is we're in disputes with the city as they were trying to give our property that we own to a private developer, at a cheap rate so he could redevelop it the way he see fit. At the end of the day, we worked everything out, and now we're the focus point of where we are located. We're right on the beach, Main Street and A1A, or Main Street and Ocean Avenue, excuse me. But my second store was one of my two. One, if I have two major failures, that was one of them.
Okay.
And what that taught me is I opened that store because I thought our store could be under threat of eminent domain and then I was going to lose it. So I kind of opened the store literally 3 or 4 blocks away from the original shop, just to kind of have at least a presence if something ever happened to that location. And everything worked out fine. And the store, it didn't make money. So no one wants to brag about all the money they lost. So we lost money at that shop and we lost time and resources. And at the end of the day, even if we broke even, we still wasted a lot of time and resources into the building. And what that taught me is as wonderful as I think my product is, as delicious as I think it is, and all that the stuff that comes along with it, location, location, location. And, I can't have the ego to put my product in the store that's just not as good as the location we have on the boardwalk. So that was kind of a lesson learned in the sense that I kind of know where my stores have to be. All the Zeno's locations are in high tourist walking destination and foot traffic. We have one in St. George Street and St. Augustine, which is very busy. Of course, the boardwalk in Daytona, John's Pass and Madeira Beach. And then we have our factory location as well that we open minimally to the public, but it's more of a manufacturing ice cream facility. It's about 11,000 square feet, and that's where we make everything at.
Okay.
And so that's my biggest mistake was the second store. And because of that second store, I kind of when opening new stores, it's I have a somewhat of a formula I try to follow.
Okay. So it's an interesting formula that you have, and here's why. Because you're building up a customer base of transient people, right? Because your likelihood is that when you have somebody come in who's a tourist, they're going to be there for a week or for a short period of time. They come in and they buy, and they're not going to come back into the store. How do you capitalize on that? How do you take that to the next level and say, you know what? I'm not just looking to make this a one time purchase or where you come in during the week that you're here. I want to make you a Zeno's customer so that when you go home, you're still going to be a patron of Zeno's.
So the Strawhan stores, which we just bought into about a year ago, they're more based towards local residential. It's an ice cream shop, a family-owned ice cream shop that's been in business since 1999. They win best in Tampa Bay area ice cream all the year. So for us to take that over was just an awesome fit. It worked very well, kept the name, the brand, the recipes, everything the same. As for Zeno's, I love that you asked that question because, our local newspaper, and I'm sure all home newspapers, they have like a best category, like, best candy shop, best ice cream shop, best, all that, best restaurant, all that other stuff. Now, if you go on TripAdvisor or any of those Yelp websites, if you Google best dessert in Daytona Beach or whatever, Zeno's is always number one. We were like the number one until they reconfigured how they rate things. We were the number one place to eat, number one restaurant out of 800 places. So that's a benefit. That's a good thing because most of the people commenting on those websites are the tourists and the people that are, visiting from out of town. Now, but with the local newspaper, the other candy shops and ice cream shops, which are excellent, which are great, which are, I'm not going to sit here and say I don't like them. I go with my families. I'm a big candy and ice cream guy. No matter what, we base all of our road trips on where there are good places to stop and get snacks. So that's how we roll. But I always laugh when these newspaper articles come out and a business who doesn't do nearly the volume we do, who I don't, is wonderful, but I just think ours is the best, that they'll beat us because at the end of the day, locals do not come to that store. And if you visited Daytona Beach on vacation, you have come to the boardwalk and seen our taffy machine pulling on the window. It's inevitable. If you've ever visited, oh yeah, I know exactly where that store is. Now, if I talk to someone that lives in Daytona Beach and I tell them we have the business on the court, they might remember, they're like, oh, we really don't go down to the board. And I wouldn't either because I'm not dealing with traffic and parking and all those other things that come with it. So I'm totally aware and susceptible, but we live in an awesome time now that everyone that leaves, everything we own, package, bagging, the candy or individually wrapped taffy itself has our website on it.
Sure.
So anyone that and taffy ships fantastically well. So does our fudge. Those are the two main things that we ship out. And people are able to find us year round. And that's just an amazing thing because if you'd have told me even 10 years that my wife Christina would be packing 15 to 20 orders a day, making a box and shipping them out, that's incredible. It's still not where we need to be. We're still not even close to where we need to be. But the fact that the potential is there is something very awesome. And I love that question because locals, it's funny if locals, we don't cater to locals at all. But I totally understand why they don't want to come and park. Sure. It's a nightmare. So, but the Strawhans locations, those are, geared for people to come to parking lots. And we have our own, parking spaces and you can pull in and we can do events there and do all the fancy chocolates and desserts that we can't do at the boardwalk because no one's coming to, as we just discussed, no one's coming to the 100-degree boardwalk with humidity to come buy a box of chocolates. It's going to melt before they even get to the car. Right. But, the other locations serve us very well to deal with the local.
Yeah. And the Strawhans locations they're not beachfront locations like that. No. And they're in the place, my full disclosure, my in-laws have a place down in Clearwater. And so you've got one in the Clearwater area that's across from one of the local malls, right?
Right.
People don't come to Florida to go to the mall. They come to Florida to go to the beach. The locals are the ones who are going to the mall because they need to buy the supplies and stuff that they need. So I love that as a concept. Let me ask this, because we're talking about saltwater taffy here. That's what you got.
Yes.
What makes it saltwater taffy? Because The only place I ever see saltwater taffy is at the beach. And
Correct.
is it because it's taffy that's sold beside the saltwater, or is there a saltwater component to the actual recipe?
So the as the story goes, in Atlantic City, either the late 1800s or early 1900s, one of the saltwater taffy shops up there had a flood or like a mist of a sea storm came in and destroyed all of the inventory of taffy that he had at the present day. And the next day, a little girl comes in the store and she goes, "Could I please buy some taffy?" He goes, "Well, I don't have any taffy. I've got saltwater taffy." And so the nickname has stuck since then. Now, I believe it's very regional. Like in the Great Lake area, it might be freshwater taffy. In Gatlinburg, Tennessee, I believe they call it mountain taffy. So the name saltwater is because of what happened in Atlantic City. Now, of course, it is always sold primarily on a coastal shore. That's where it's the most popular. We tell everyone taffy was invented on the Jersey Shore, but perfected on the world's most famous beach, because that's what Daytona is. World's most famous taffy comes from the world's most famous beach. But yeah, but true story. I think you'll appreciate this. So when I was younger, there was these seven sisters who were family friends of ours, and all seven of them worked for my parents as they were in high school, and the three youngest ones babysat for me. So when they would start, my dad would, because he had the adjacent gift shop as well, he would send them out on their first day with a bucket, empty bucket, and tell them to go to the ocean and go get me salt water for the taffy. And he would tell them, you have to go waist deep. You can't just get like, your toes. So they would be like, for sure. And they're like, yeah, go, 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 go. So he would go and they'd come back with the bucket of salt water.
Right.
And then he, jokes on them. He would tell them, we don't, that's just a joke. But he would tell them, but you can't tell your sisters because I'm going to do it to them again next year. So, all girls kept their mouths shut. And, it was like a tradition that passed on. And I don't know if he could do it nowadays, but back then, and because, they're great friends of ours and still are to this day, it was just a funny thing to do. But no, some people do use salt, but no one actually uses salt water.
Okay.
Salt water.
All right. So let me ask this as well, because we actually go to Ocean City, New Jersey on vacation on a fairly regular basis. And one of your competitors is there. I will give you props for this, okay? Because your marketing department is really smart. They sent me a box of taffy.
Good.
And we got the taffy. I will be upfront and say I don't eat sugar. So I did not partake. However, I did smell it and it smelled really good. My kids, on the other hand, have no qualms about eating sugar. They tried it out and they said that the flavor was more robust than your competitor in Ocean City, who I will not name. So congratulations on that much. But
Yeah.
I do have a question.
Sure.
We looked at your flavor card, which is a genius move. The box came with a card in it that told you what all the different flavors are that are available. And the cool thing is we got the classic flavor box, which doesn't have all of the flavors, but having the card says this is what else is available. Genius marketing move on your part. Beer flavored saltwater taffy. Who came up with the idea?
So when I took over, we started making ice cream, and we were originally a small 8-foot candy counter that had chocolates, fudge, and taffy. And then when I took over, my parents really set me up well to where they partitioned the store and gave me a full blown candy and ice cream shop. And we were gonna buy the ice cream, but then I realized, oh wow, you can make it too. And my dad was like, "What do you know about making ice cream?" And we had just literally left the ice cream shop where there was a 16-year-old making the ice cream. I'm like, well, if that kid can do it, I was like 22, 23 at the time. I go, I'm not that dumb. I'm like, I'm sure I can do what something a 16-year-old can do. So we started making the ice cream. And that's when we started increasing the flavor list of the saltwater taffy, because I still to this day believe I'm the first to make pistachio taffy, cookies and cream taffy, cookie dough taffy. We have 101 now, which is the most in the United States, which is I assume is the most in the world. I mean, I can't imagine someone else somewhere else making taffy. But when we started making the ice cream is when I got creative with the different taffy flavors as well. And the beer taffy, we make a Guinness beer ice cream with brownie pieces and pretzels, and It's fantastic. I mean, it's fantastic. Even if you're not a beer drinker, you would enjoy this.
Okay.
But the beer taffy, and we have maple bacon as well. Both of those are more novelty, just to kind of get you to go, well, that's weird. Like, so when people come into the stores, we always offer samples. You're more than welcome to come in and try a piece. But when they go for beer or maple bacon, I panic because they're okay. They're not like, I thank you very much for the compliment you said before. And I agree with you. I think our taffy is top notch. But those two, I panic. And I tell everyone else, don't let them grab those two as the sample.
Right.
We tell them, put that in your pocket. Try one of these, like, one of these right here. So then they get, one of the 20 more popular flavors that we have. And then they'll pick up, 3 pounds, 4 pounds of candy.
Okay.
And, but I would say ultimately at the end of the day, I know exactly who you're talking about. Wonderful family, the owner, not the original owner, but like the second owner, who's like my dad's age, helped me out, find someone with machines and stuff like that. It's a small circle. At the end of the day, you all know everybody. And,
sure.
But I agree with you, and it's not us being, you just met me today. So you have nothing to gain by saying mine's better, but I love all different ice creams. I love all different chocolates. I love all different from every other candy company. Taffy is still the one thing I haven't had that it's as good as ours. And I understand opinions are all different, but this is what I really stand behind, and I really believe in it. It's all in the process and how we did it. Kind of discovered how we make taffy by mistake. We used to pull it traditionally with our pullers in the window. That's how you get the Z in our logo and everything else. But now we whip it using like big Hobart mixers. It makes a much better product, fluffier. It intensifies the flavor. Your kids were spot on with exactly how they said it's more robust. And then as people's palates have changed throughout the years, so has our taffy. It's not the same taffy you got 25 years ago. Nowadays, people want that more tart for the fruity flavors. They want it to hit them in the back of their teeth a little bit. And if kids are going to be the ones that we still want to eat and enjoy taffy, we have to make it to their profiles. And so that's why at the end of the day, I'm a professional taste tester and I have to like it. Like, and if I don't like it, we can't. Now there's some flavors I just don't like. I don't like blackcurrant. I don't like peppermint. Doesn't mean ours is not the best black licorice peppermint. At the end of the day, I'm just not going to eat it. Sure. And there are candies that we do not make because I know other candy companies make it better than me. And I don't, for example, perfect example. And if you go to New Orleans or Charleston or Savannah, they're famous for their pralines or pralines, however one was.
Right.
They are excellent. I won't make those in my store because I don't want you coming to my store trying my praline saying, well, they're not as good as the other one. So maybe everything else they don't make is not as good either. And to me, I'd rather not make it and lose out on that sale, but know everything I have in there, I think is the best.
Okay.
And that's kind of where my philosophy is with that.
Yeah. So I want to point out 2 things that you said in there that I think entrepreneurs can learn from. Number 1 is adapting to the current environment, and that involves doing research. So your recipes today are not the same as they were when you started the store, and the reason is that you are adapting them based on feedback, and I'm guessing consumer group. I don't know exactly what you're doing, but you're trying to make sure that you are adapting to the environment. And the other piece is that you don't have to be the best at everything. Find out what is your area and be the absolute best at that. And there are competitors out there who may be better at you than something in some area. Let them do their thing. You make sure that it's kind of the Five Guys philosophy, right? Five Guys burgers and fries. Like, we make burgers and fries. That's what we do. That's the list. When you come here, you're going to get an excellent burger and you're going to get excellent fries. We're not going any more than that because we just want to excel at what we do, which phenomenal. I got to tell you a quick funny story because you were talking about beer ice cream. Okay. I was working in Pittsburgh and we've got a homemade ice cream place that was literally 2 blocks from where my office was. And we would go down with a couple of my coworkers after lunch at least once a week.
Like in downtown Pittsburgh? Or?
In the Oakland section of Pittsburgh. So
I had a buddy that had a restaurant on Penn Avenue, but go ahead.
Yep. So anyway, we would go down, and one day we went down for ice cream, and one of my coworkers like, they have ginger ale ice cream. Like, I've got to try this. And so she tried it, and she was like, it doesn't really have the ginger ale flavor that I was expecting. And then she burped and she said, like, the aftertaste is kind of alcoholic. And we looked again, and it was golden ale ice cream, not ginger ale ice cream.
Oh,
So
wow.
we were giving her a
Yeah.
hard time that we were going to report her to our supervisor that she's,
Yeah.
just take a whiff of her breath because she's drinking on the job kind of thing.
Yeah.
But
You
excellent.
know, if I may, I know this is for business people and entrepreneurs, but as a father, a point that you just made that I kind of stress with my kids is I think a lot of time parents, when they kids bring home report cards, if they bring home 6 A's and a C, but they tried their hardest, what's the one grade parents always focus on? And it's a C. And someone told me this, and it really opened my eyes. And I think this is what helped me in the business as well, is your little darlings, mine included, who are 14 and 10, aren't going to be better than average at lots of things in life. C means average. They're going to be below average and suck at lots of things as well. So if they tried their hardest, there's nothing you can do about it. What do they get A's in? What do they love to get A's in? And you find that and you triple down and you double down. Now I'm hoping they both come with me and, be the fourth generation candy makers. As
Sure.
of right now, they're both interested. But at the same time, I don't want professional students. I've told them that myself. I'm always the dumbest one in the room. That's why I think you and I are going to get along very well.
Yep.
Because if I'm the smartest one in the room, I'm in the wrong room. So I always I'm a very good team builder. If
Sure.
someone had to say, why are you successful? I always try to be the worst player on the field, the worst musician in the band, because I know if I'm the worst, then everyone else is like that much ahead of me, and it just makes me better. And weakest, you're only as strong as your weakest link, and I think I'm pretty strong, so
Yep.
that works out.
Well, no, and the idea of setting yourself as the baseline and just trying to find people who are better at you than everything, a genius idea. The other piece I will say, listen, I'm a person with a disability, right? I broke my neck when I was 21 years old, and what I've learned from that is nobody ever achieved greatness by focusing on what they can't do, and that fits right in with your philosophy. Listen, John, thank you so much for being here. If people want to learn more about Zeno's, like, where can they find you on the web? Where can they order? Where can they get their preferably something along with their beer and maple bacon taffy?
Yes. So they can find us online at worldsmostfamoustaffy.com. Like I mentioned before, we're on the world's most famous beach. So we named our product worldsmostfamoustaffy.com. You can get all of our saltwater taffy and fudge and different brittles and caramel corns on there. And then we also have 4 retail locations in Florida, as well as our Straw Hans brand, which is homemade ice cream and carrot cakes and key limes. We're actually working on a website to start shipping all that stuff as well. And personally, you can find me on LinkedIn. I do a lot of video posts of production and all the other fun stuff we do. I don't ever try to sell anything. I am just posting what it is we do. I'm blessed we live in a time where people can approach me because they like something that we're doing. But I am terrible at knocking on doors. I'd be broke and starving if I had to rely on my ability to go out door to door to try to sell things. But I'm John Zeno Louizes. You can find me there. And I got to tell you, this is very fun. And I enjoyed this conversation very much so. And we're going to do a discount, which you will announce in your notes,
Yep.
and
I will.
20% off. And then we'll figure that all out.
Yep. There will be a discount code in the show notes, and John, very generous, 20% off your order. So everybody, I would encourage you to go ahead and take advantage of that. John, it is now time for 3 questions to establish your humanity. Are you ready for these, my friend?
Let's go.
All right. So you've got 2 kids. What is your child's proudest achievement?
Proudest achievement. Well, I had a great talk with Zeno, who I named after my father.
Okay.
And when I was younger, I'd be in these speech contests, like oratorical festivals, where you do public speaking and stuff. And I don't know if you could tell, but I did pretty good at those. And he started doing them as now too. But he didn't really put the same enthusiasm into it as I did. And he won the first round, but I told him, I'd bury you if we were the same age right now. You'd have stand no chance. And I told him, I didn't want to say anything to start it off with, but because I just wanted you to do it. I was proud of him to do it because
Sure.
anyone who goes out and speaks in public, that's a big deal. I love putting my children in an uncomfortable situation, actually, like, because they live the charmed life and it's the only way to grow.
Right.
And when I told him that, I go, I guess I'm gonna just die knowing I'm the greatest Louizes ever to live. And the look of panic on his, because he's my father's grandson. He
Right.
is my dad's namesake and my son, and we're all kind of egomaniacs and narcissists. If I had to be the truth, and he's like, no way, like that, he starts studying these speed, like, so he got out there and he like destroyed it. And I was so proud. Like he want, like, it was just such a fun ride. And it's something that I know it's going to take on the rest of his life. So as for my oldest, and the younger one, he's just a great little soccer player. They're both, I'm very blessed. They're both right now good kids. I don't know what kind of adults they're going to be, but as of right now, I already know the younger one's going to be the trouble one. The older one's going to be okay. So that's where we're at with that one.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Do you like or dislike surprises?
I think I've never personally, I always tell my wife, I don't think you could ever surprise me with like a party or something like that. Like I'm always baffled by how people, because someone's always gonna spill the beans, and like I can put two and two together if someone's trying to. I love great surprises, but if I had to live in a world of surprises or no surprises, to me, the bad surprises always outweigh the good surprises. So I'd rather have no surprises at all if I had to guess. Now, good surprises surprise me every day. I love, I love it. My wife probably leave me if I decide to ever surprise. She hates being the focus of attention. I love it. So that's why we make such a good team. But, if I had to pick the bad surprises with the good surprises, just get rid of the surprises and let me just live my own life.
All right. So I want to go back to something that you mentioned during the conversation. You said when you go on road trips, your road trips center around food. So this is your chance to plug somebody else. What is the most memorable food stop that you have ever made on one of your family vacations?
So when my youngest son was about 2 years old, we had to pull over for a potty break. And we were a half hour from my buddy that lived in Pittsburgh. He married a girl in Lancaster, Pennsylvania. So they're like in the Lidditz area. So we were visiting up to them. And we just pulled off on some random exit to go use the bathroom. But we passed this like place that is called Maple Donuts. And it looked like a regular donut stand, but I'm like, Maple Donuts, like, oh my goodness, sounds amazing. So we weren't really going to go, but then we saw that the gas station was selling Maple Donuts as well. And we're like, wow, that might be like a legit place. Like, yeah. So we pull in and it was a legit factory. It was probably 20,000 square feet with a little, like, store, a storefront. And I walked into the place. And it was the most amazing donut display I'd ever seen. The donuts to this day are my favorite. Like we purposely drive, we come to their house with donuts they can get every day, but like, we get them more for us. And I'll never forget, and it's true to this day, the box must weigh, a dozen donuts must weigh 10 pounds. I mean, like, each donut's a pound. And the lady, and I only had a 20 on me. I didn't think, a dozen donuts, like, how much it's going to cost. And as she's putting the donuts, I'm like, I didn't bring enough money inside. And it was like $8. Like, it was like something like ridiculously like inexpensive. But I've got to give them, that was by far the most memorable stop of a food find that we ever had, that we still go to. And everyone up in that town makes fun of us that we're the only ones that go, like, go out of our way to go there when it's only 25 minutes from their house.
That's hilarious. Well, you know what? I'm going to see if I can find a link for Maple Donuts and I'll put it in the show notes as well. Listen, John Louizes, thank you so much for being here. I appreciate you sharing. You are indeed a smart person. And to all my listeners, I will remind you that when you stop learning, you stop living. Have a great day, everybody.